Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Wish it would get warmer, but it's not getting any warmer. In fact, we're talking another snowstorm this weekend. But we're going to stay warm, going to stay safe. Is there anybody who's logged on right now who missed the test yesterday? I mean, the other Wednesday. There might be some because there were some people who had gone on the field trip. All right, so we're going to have a light day today. We're going to introduce toxicology. We're going to watch the trendy science teacher introduce toxicology, and then I'm going to give you a chance for those who need to catch up to catch up. Today is Friday. You want to make sure that all of your missing assignments are up to date. They are doing progress reports on Monday, so you want to make sure that the grade that's in the grade book is your best grade. So after the video, I'll give you time to read the overview. So again, log into Canvas while we're waiting for everybody to come in. We're still missing half the class right now. So read, we're starting toxicology. So as always, look at the overview. It is published, okay. Again, a lot of vocabulary words with this one. And with this one, we're also going to be looking at testing uh, tests for different drugs and different laws. So this one is a little heavier than the last. So again, look at the essential questions, look at the vocabulary words, and as soon as most people are logged in, I'll go ahead and start the video. Quite a few late folks. We may start in a few minutes anyway, because folks are being very late this morning. Yes. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and put that code in. Yeah, I was gonna do light lesson today so that you all could do the test today in class. So let me go ahead and put, so again, if you were not in class, let me give it a minute because there was quite a few of you. Some more coming in. Um, oops. Okay. All right. So if you missed the test on Wednesday, there's the code. And you can go ahead and get started on that. You might want to mute the computer because I am going to show a video. So I don't know whether if you're testing, you hear it or not, but all right, I'll give it another minute. All right, so Abigail, you got that? You just go. You're welcome. Mm. All right, if you just came in, we're going to do forensic toxicology today. I was just trying to give it a few minutes for quite a few people missing. We're going to start in a minute. Okay, folks, so I am. All right, so we're going to again be doing toxicology. There's two videos. We're only going to watch the first one today. And then, like I said, I'm going to give you a chance to read. Those of you who don't have any makeup work to do, to go ahead and read the next section on drugs. So toxicology is about drugs. And we're going to learn a long list of drugs, types of drugs, and how to test for them, and what they have to do with crime scenes. So we're going to look at that.
All right, forensic students, welcome back. Today we are starting on forensic toxicology, which is always an interesting subject. I think that you'll find it interesting anyway. But forensic toxicology is the study of adverse effects of different drugs and chemicals on different biological systems of the human body. So basically, it's concerned with quantities and effects of different drugs and poisons on the human body, usually as it pertains to death. So today we're going to look at toxicology and try to understand why it's important in the field of forensics. And then we're also going to talk about different bodily effects of certain drugs and chemicals.
I'll make it bigger as soon as my computer
and we're
allows
even going
me
to take that a step further and learn about the classification of drugs, and we're going to learn how they're scheduled according to the DEA. And then we'll start to talk about how toxicologists identify toxins in the body. Now, we're going to do that in part 2. So right now you're watching part 1 of forensic toxicology, and we're going to do a little bit of research at the end of part 1. And then for part 2 of forensic toxicology, we're actually going to get into the role of a toxicologist.
All right, I'm going to try something.
All right, so if you have taken...
Hold on. That's not going to work either. My computer is frozen. So it's not it's allowing me to, the Zoom is working, but my Canvas is frozen. I can't even log out of it. All right, as soon as it unlocks, it's playing, but the screen isn't, I can hear it, but the screen isn't changing because the whole Canvas screen is locked. But when it unlocks, I'll start it over. This is crazy. Finally. Okay, hold on. All right, I finally got it to stop doing what it was doing. It might have closed out of everything else.
Forensic students, welcome back. Today we are starting on forensic toxicology, which is always an interesting subject. I think that you'll find it interesting anyway. But forensic toxicology is the study of adverse effects of different drugs and chemicals on different biological systems of the human body. So basically, it's concerned with quantities and effects of different drugs and poisons on the human body, usually as it pertains to death. So today we're going to look at toxicology and try to understand why it's important in the field of forensics. And then we're also going to talk about different bodily effects of certain drugs and chemicals. And we're even going to take that a step further and learn about the classification of drugs, and we're going to learn how they're scheduled according to the DEA. And then we'll start to talk about how toxicologists identify toxins in the body. Now, we're going to do that in part 2. So right now you're watching part 1 of forensic toxicology, and we're going to do a little bit of research at the end of part 1. And then for part 2 of forensic toxicology, we're actually going to get into the role of a toxicologist. All right, so if you have taken physical science or chemistry, you have learned about chemicals. So we know that by definition, a chemical is a compound or a different substance. They're often made synthetically that's comprised of different elements. And some chemicals are toxic, some are not. So I'm going to just show you a chart. And if you'll look at the chart, you will notice that on the left-hand side, you have a list of materials that are considered toxic, and on the right side, you have a list of materials that are considered non-toxic. And as you look at these, you may think to yourself, wait a minute, some of these on the toxic side aren't necessarily toxic. Remember, toxic does not necessarily equate to death. For example, if I'm bitten by a rattlesnake, I'm going to be exposed to venom. Venom is toxic, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to lead to my death. So toxin just means it is toxic to the body or the organ systems or tissues within the body. On the other side of that, things that are in the non-toxic category can also be toxic. For example, if I'm allergic to acetaminophen and I'm exposed to it, then that could prove to be toxic to my body. If I ingest too much ibuprofen, then again, that could lead to something that is toxic to my body. So it depends on who you are and how your body reacts to some of these as to whether they would be in the toxic or non-toxic category. They all, though, are considered to be chemicals. All right, so I don't know if you know the lady in the picture here. This might kind of tell my age, but this is Anna Nicole Smith. She was back in the early 2000s, late 90s. She was an American model. She was also an actress, and she died just suddenly and very mysteriously in around 2007, I believe. And so she was in the tabloids a lot, and so there was a lot of questions about how she died, why she died. And so, of course, her body was sent off for an autopsy since it was a suspicious death. And a medical examiner produced an autopsy report for the world to see. And they determined that she died of an accidental overdose of prescription medications. Now, the medical examiner had to work with the pathologist and had to work with the forensic investigators to figure this out. So there was a whole full-fledged investigation done where they had to look into the death of Anna Nicole Smith. And there was a lot of pressure put on the toxicologist at that time. Everybody wanted to know how she died, what she died from. And so, of course, the toxicologist was the person that was ultimately responsible for figuring out how Anna Nicole Smith died. All right, so the role of a toxicologist is to identify and quantify the presence of drugs and chemicals in the blood system and in tissue samples. And this is done several different ways, but it is an advanced science where they are constantly using state-of-the-art chemical and biomedical instruments. They detect small amounts of toxic materials. Not only do they have to positively identify those toxins, but then they have to have a way of accurately measuring how much of that toxin is present. And could it have led to cause of death or the death of a person? If you have some time, pause the video and do a quick YouTube search of the role of a forensic toxicologist. There is a good video that sort of shows the behind the scenes of a toxicologist. And it's really good at showing, especially if you have an interest in this as a career, you can take a look at that video. And I personally think it does a great job of showcasing the role of a forensic toxicologist. So
we'll look at that next class.
Look at that if that's something that you have time to do. All right, and we'll just keep moving on. So some drugs are referred to as toxins. Now, drugs are classified according to what we call schedules. And in 1990, there was something that was produced called the Classification Drug Act of 1990. It has since changed names. Now it's called the Controlled Substances Act. So you can do a Google search of Classification Drug Act of 1990. Lots of stuff will pop up. But if you are wanting the most recent information and data, you are going to search Controlled Substances Act. Both of these place drugs into categories. Okay, now there are currently 5 schedules of drugs. this changes. So by the time you watch this video, there may have been a 6th schedule added, or I know when I first started teaching forensics, there were only 4 schedules. So currently, at the recording of this video, there are 5 schedules of drugs, and the different schedules are based on 3 different factors. So potential for abuse, basically how likely is it for the drug to be abused? Accepted medical use, so is this drug used as a treatment in the United States? And is it safe, or is there a potential for addiction?
All right. These are the factors that you have to know for this unit as to determining what the classification of drugs are for toxicology.
So how likely is it this drug to cause addiction? What kinds of addiction? Because there's different levels within that. So Schedule 1 drugs have the highest potential for abuse and the potential to create severe psychological and physical dependence. And as these drug schedules change, so as you move from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2 to Schedule 3, and so on, so does the potential for abuse. So your Schedule 5 drugs represent the least potential for abuse. This might be your over-the-counter medications like Tylenol or ibuprofen. So a listing of the most current drug schedules can be found if you do a search for Controlled Substances Act, or if you go to the DEA's website, they always keep an updated list of the different drugs and their schedules. So let's talk a little bit more in detail about different schedules of drugs. So Schedule 1 drugs are substances or chemicals that are defined as drugs that have no currently accepted medical use and also a high potential for abuse. So some examples of Schedule 1 drugs would be like heroin, LSD, marijuana, and you might be thinking, wait a minute. A lot of states are legalizing marijuana in the United States. And while that is true, at the recording of the video, when it comes to marijuana, the DEA has listed it as a Schedule 1 drug because the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, has determined that there is no current accepted medical use for marijuana in the United States. Do I think that this will change? I think so. So it's important, I'm not sure when you're watching this video, but it's important to note that it is currently 2021, and currently marijuana is listed as a Schedule 1 drug because the FDA has determined that there's no accepted medical use for marijuana. So legal and what the DEA calls a Schedule 1 drug, aren't necessarily synonymous with one another. All right, so Schedule 2 drugs are substances or chemicals that are defined as drugs with a high potential for abuse. The use of it could potentially lead to severe psychological and physical dependence like that of Schedule 1 drugs. And they're still considered dangerous, but a little less so than Schedule 1 drugs. So this might be your prescription pain medicines, like methadone or oxycodone or fentanyl. Adderall also falls in this category. So those are your Schedule 2 drugs. And then Schedule 3 drugs are substances or chemicals that are defined as drugs with moderate to low potential for physical and psychological dependence. And these seem to fluctuate. So from year to year, Schedule 3 drugs sometimes bump up to Schedule 4. Sometimes they bump down to Schedule 2. So again, you need to make sure that you do some more research on this if you're looking for a particular drug. So some examples of Schedule 3 drugs would include Tylenol with codeine, which of course you'd have to have a prescription for. Anabolic steroids also fall in this category, like testosterone. Your Schedule 4 drugs would be drugs that have a low potential for abuse and a low risk of dependency. So this would be like Xanax, Soma, Darvocet, Valium, sleeping medications like Ambien or Tramadol. And then your Schedule 5 drugs are drugs with lower potential for abuse than Schedule 4 and consist of limited amounts of narcotics. So this would be like cough medicines, or different medicines that you can get over the counter, like Lyrica. So you can see sort of on the screen, you have different drugs that you have to classify. If you are one of my students, you will be completing this worksheet. If you are not and you're interested in figuring out which of these drugs belong to what schedule, then head over to the DEA's website. Again, you're looking for the Controlled Substances Act, because that's how the DEA classifies drugs and toxins. So take a look at that, and I will see you in part 2 of the forensic toxicology video.
Righty. So we're not doing that one today. All right, so like I said earlier, some people are testing. If you came in late and you missed the test on Wednesday, I just put the code in the chat, so please go ahead and do that today. Those of you who tested, y'all did a good job. Thank you, thank you. Again, look at the overview. Like I said, get to know some of those vocabulary words, and go ahead and read the first section and do this activity right here. Okay, so this is just reading today for those of you who are not testing. There's a lot to know about the drugs. The little slide show. New attendance now. Again, if you were absent on Wednesday, I did put the code in the chat. You should be taking the test today. Everybody else should just be reading. If you have any outstanding assignments, please make sure they're turned in. Progress reports go out next week or are available next week. So you want to make sure that you have the best scores. Nothing is missing. This way. Jordan, is your signal just going back and forth? All right, so Jaden, is Kylie here? Jordan. All right, again, if you need to take the test, please do that at this time. Uh, Code. All right, so I need, Ayana, you need to take it. Jordan, you need to take it. Um, Elise, I think you're already taking it. Kylie is, Kylie, you need to take it. I think I already said Jaden. So Jaden, Kylie, Jordan, Alicia, Ayana, y'all need to be taking the test. Code is in the chat. All right. If you came in late and you're not taking the test, we have started toxicology. You should be reading that section, at least the first two, the overview and the first section in toxicology. Or turning in anything that's missing. Today is Fabulous Friday. It's Get It Done Day. Jordan, you need to take your test. It is it's hair analysis, hair fiber. What is it called now? It's got a long name. It is analysis of hair fiber and botanical materials. That is the name of the quiz. And don't forget, a lot of you didn't do the review page. It's worth 5 points. I practically gave you the answers to it. So all you have to do is rearrange it in a nice little way, and you get credit for that. All right, so check to see if you turned in the review questions. There were 5 questions you were supposed to answer. Had quite a few zeros on that account.
Miss Harris?
Yes.
Can you let someone back in the Zoom?
Oh, okay. Yes. There you go. Thank you. She got kicked out because she was in. There we go. Sorry about that. Seems to be internet troubles today. My Canvas was going back and forth too. Storm is coming. Again, please use this time to make sure any zeros that you might have disappear. Use class time to do class work. I remember late is better than a zero. Make sure that you go through and look for all the zeros. Not available. Yes, it is. Hold on. People were working on it today, so it should be available. It should be available until 11:59 tonight. It shouldn't close until tonight. Um, Hold on. Let me see. Okay. All right, Alicia, I don't know why you can't get in it. Let me do this from student view because it should be in the module as well. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna give you a link. Okay. All right, so it's in the module. Copy, but I'm sending you the link. Let me know if you still can't get in it with the link. And Kylie, you seem to just be logged in for logging in sake. All right, folks, time has expired for this class. Those of you who are testing, keep working. Make sure you get that finished today. Kylie, I don't know where you disappeared to, but and folks, if y'all are logged in and you don't take a test, then that's a 0. And logging in and not doing any work is a 0. So don't log in just for attendance sake and then expect to get credit for that day. So let's get these assignments done. Anyway, stay safe over the weekend. It's going to be cold. It might snow. I don't know if it snows in Columbus, but it's definitely talking about snowing in Atlanta. So stay safe. Have a good weekend.